Welcome all to our one-day debate. All of the items that you are going to be discussing today are real-life events. These are things that are happening. These are people that are suffering. These are deaths that are occurring. This is destruction which is ongoing. And therefore, we, like any academic organization, are striving to come up with solutions to these issues. And that is what we are tasking you with, to creating solutions to very real problems. All of the characters that you are playing today are also real characters. These are the real representatives of the United Nations Security Council at this time, and they are indeed discussing all of these issues. So it is imperative today that you really strive not just to give speeches and expose the position of your country on an issue, but also to listen carefully, understand and inquire about other perspectives.
Senegal's ultimate goal here today is just to make peace amongst Russia and settle all disputes in the best manner possible today.
Venezuela's top goal is for safety in the region, which is why we support the Minsk II agreement to de-escalate this conflict.
Russia wants the Minsk II agreement to be put into effect, but before this can happen, a blanket amnesty must be granted to all separatists.
From the U.S., we completely disagree with Russia's choice and feel their annexation of Crimea is a complete violation of Ukraine's sovereignty, territorial integrity, and a breach of international law.
It should be noted that more sanctions can and will be imposed on Russia if they continue the violence and chaos that has troubled us for too long.
The Minsk Accord or any other ceasefire agreement will help defuse any further military action and bring peace to Ukraine.
China believes that military force is useless in this conflict because any military force is likely to lead to a dissatisfied party.
Egypt, United States, Uruguay, United Kingdom.
I don't know, the MH17 plane was downed by a Russian missile, presumably fired by Ukrainian rebels. And Malaysia is still working hard to try to bring those people to justice.
We deeply apologize for the actions of separatist rebels, yet we are afraid that we cannot control them. Furthermore, sanctions on Russia have been placed and they should be lifted.
Well, if Russia does not want sanctions on them, it is in their best interest to first try to negotiate a ceasefire agreement in which sanctions will be lifted in order to reset relationships and fix the issues that have been going on.
Now, the minute Ukraine decides to grant a blanket amnesty to separatist rebels, Russia will return the eastern border. But until that happens, there will be no ceasefire.
If Russia does insist that sanctions should be lifted first, I don't see why that's a problem, because sanctions can be pushed back at any time.
Russia wanting to expand into the Crimean Peninsula is not old news. You can go back to the Crimean War where the UK, France, and Turkey fought against Russia to stop them from expanding into the Crimean Peninsula, part of Ukraine, and we won. Though we can easily impose more and new sanctions on Russia, it would be in all of our best interests to honor the ceasefire agreement and the Minsk II Accord.
When the United States and their allies invaded in 2003, yes, we took it over, but we also angered many citizens there. After that, organizations like ISIS formed, and that is the reason why we're having this problem today.
So we need to work with Assad to create to work against ISIS, and we can't overthrow him and create another vacuum, to create just another terrorist organization.
Without him, we cannot send a single troop, a single plane, a single anything into Syria.
We'd rather have a terrorist organization be running an entire country with people's lives being completely ruined, or we'd rather have some form of government in place.
Russia's been bombing the rebels. Countries like the United Kingdom and the United States have been bombing Assad. But the only thing this achieves is the hurting of the citizens of Syria.
We need to support the rebels and the Kurdish forces in the region, as Assad is a dictator who has allowed for ISIS to thrive in the region because he does not want to be thrown out of power.
There are some, like the Free Syrian Army and the Kurdish Peshmerga, who fight for democracy and freedom in Syria. And these are groups that we definitely support, and we believe that more should be done to help them fight ISIS and help restore freedom in their country.
But more a focus on fighting the Islamic State rather than each other.
But are the rebels the ones who are causing such humanitarian problems like ISIS? No. We need to focus on ISIS first and not bomb the rebels. If we're helping the rebels and they're bombing the rebels, no one's fighting ISIS.
Statistics have shown that the Kurdish forces, along with our airstrikes, have declined the ISIS territory by 50% in Iraq and 20% in Syria. Thus, local forces are the most effective way in order to destroy this organization. Thank you.
The answer is to help Assad. Yes, maybe he's not aware of some of the values that our world has, but we need to teach him.
We need to support the Syrian rebels who are working to restore freedom and democracy, not just the dictator who's fighting ISIS.
Motion for a 5-minute with 30 seconds speaking time moderated caucus on the Minsk II agreement.
That is in order. All those in favor, please raise your placards now. This motion passes.
Just Russia will not move its troops away from the eastern border. Once this happens, we can finally find peace in the Ukraine.
It is clear that neither side will act until another one shows a sign of good faith. That is why Russia believes that sanctions should be taken off Russia as a sign of good faith.
And if you fulfill with the agreements of the Minsk agreement, then we'll continue to lift more sanctions off one by one.
You cannot just bombard through a sovereign nation's territory and expect that it'll be okay. There will be consequences.
UK, to what point of motion do you
Motion
raise?
for 10 minutes allowed.
That is in order.
So that we can still apply.
Ukraine is a sovereign nation. Russia cannot
Like Crimea's technical Russia. Crimean people believe that they are in Russia.
All other countries right now believe that a third-party nation should do the legal referendum.
No, you have the right. You have
Are you
the
saying
right
it's
to try to
illegal?
take
Not
over.
necessarily.
So I suggested your proposal to Russia. They're pretty happy. France isn't.
So in the case of the referendum in the Ukraine, the referendum in Ukraine violated the Ukrainian constitution. The Ukrainian constitution says, indeed, that a territory from the Ukraine can secede, but that this secession has to be done by all Ukrainians. And when the USSR split up in 1991, basically Crimea ended up on Ukrainian territory, okay? But that is a hard argument to make that the Crimea has always been part of Ukrainian territory. In fact, all of Ukraine has been part of Russian territory, okay? So in that context, it's unclear as to who is decolonizing from who. And I'm very well aware, by the way, that everything I'm telling you is not giving you a clear answer, okay? This is part of the conundrum with this case, is that it doesn't necessarily fit within the existing standards that we have. It's not really an independence movement. It was done within the context of an ongoing conflict.
The longer that we remain at a neutral stance about this, the longer that all these civilians' lives are going to be disrupted, the longer the bombings are going to go on, and the longer that this war is going to last. If we intervene and help the rebels fight the government, we can end the war. And we can actually let the rebels have freedom and democracy, which is what they wish for.
The fighters' salaries have been cut by half, and the ISIS oil supply has been cut by 1/3. This is all because of the airstrikes that the U.S. has done to help the rebels and not to help the government.
What we don't want is the force of Assad. Exactly what we do want is a strong, stable, central government.
If we just go out and help Assad now and then see what we can do about the government later, we'll actually be able to combat ISIS now as opposed to postponing it and then just letting more people die.
Motion for a 6-minute moderated caucus, 45-second speaking time on a ceasefire between Assad and the rebels. We believe that a ceasefire might actually be the option if we can have a coalition during that ceasefire to back Assad and in fighting ISIS, not in fighting the rebels.
We can propose the rebels to govern us a part of Syria where they can choose what they want, have schools have democratic things, and then while we're doing this, we can attack ISIS and focus on the problem at hand.
How can we trust the rebels or the Syrian government to keep the promises to each other as well? As there are such strong hatred and feelings towards each other, I believe the best option would still be a ceasefire.
Right now, we need to focus on ISIS, the point of this debate. So maybe we can try and find a temporary ceasefire between the rebels and the government, and focus our attention on ISIS.
Whatever they may be fighting for, it's going to be very hard to differentiate between those who have good intentions and those who do not.
Just because they might follow the ceasefire in Syria doesn't mean that ISIS will stop their recruiting missions in Europe and stop carrying out attacks on Western places.
Consider timeline, which is when it'll be implemented, who will be involved in the ceasefire, and what incentive to give to both sides in order for the ceasefire to actually happen. And we'd also like to see more proposals besides the ceasefire, because that's definitely not the entire solution that the problem needs.
We've noticed that you sometimes divide into groups of people, which is really counterproductive for a security council, because there are 5 people here who have veto power. So you need to make sure that you're coordinating with all parties.
What actions can the UNSC take in order to de-escalate the situation between Russia and the United States, or to prevent military buildup on both sides of the Russian border? So we want this part of the day to be debating specifically these questions and specific solutions.
All those in favor, please leave your classes. All those opposed? This motion passes. We are now in a 10-minute moderated conference with 1 minute time on the topic of the use of sanctions.
This agreement of the Minsk Accords will be implemented in a bill that France, Russia, and China are drafting.
Instead of just removing all of the sanctions, each country should remove one sanction from Russia, and Russia should remove one sanction from all the countries, basically to show that like they're loyal and that they're willing to proceed with a future agreement like the Minsk Agreement.
And all of the above will be discarded if when the referendum is retaken.
So ISIS generally targets isolated people through means such as YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, or other kinds of social media. Its recruiters are paid usually around $10,000 per person they recruit, so they're highly incentivized to recruit people. They use a wide variety of manipulation tactics across a whole bunch of social media platforms. So it's very difficult to sort of hone in on one platform and just stop ISIS recruitment overall.
One of the major ways that ISIS was able to communicate was through video games, because those could not be monitored. So we are guessing that that's also a method of recruitment.
Social media is owned by private companies, and we cannot regulate every social media in every way that ISIS has a point of recruitment in.
What has happened over the past few months is that the UK has created a unit called the CTIRU, Counterterrorism Internet Referral Unit, which has taken down more than 47,000 pieces of unlawful terrorist material off the internet. In addition to that, the UK has almost doubled security at airports and make sure that people aren't traveling to Syria just for their own safety. So the UK would like to urge other countries to undergo maybe these same measures, and also maybe to include such a measure that encourages countries to include measures like this in the working paper that we're working on.
We need to target these oil wells through careful and planned attacks and strikes to cut ISIS of one of its most important key elements in its fight, its money. Thank you.
We also discourage the idea of harming those oil mines, because those also benefit the Syrians and they need that. And if we do anything, that can majorly affect trade all around. So if that is incorporated, Russia will not agree.
By educating people of all religions, all people, but especially people that have a potential to join such organizations, may be key in overall stopping the further recruitment of ISIS personnel.
We really need to get the word out there, and we really need to communicate that ISIS is dangerous and that people should not just join them, and they should really take this seriously.
We should focus to inform people that ISIS isn't just bad, it's also losing. ISIS is losing ground, it's losing money, and it's losing people. Who really wants to join our losing program?
Alright, all those opposed? This motion passes. The agenda has been set to humanitarian aid.
I think that we should urge or promote countries to take refugees and have an incentive for countries that take refugees.
Since Spain has already taken in 15,000 refugees from this crisis in the Middle East, all other countries should be open to taking in at least 3,000 or more.
The United Kingdom does not think that it would be a good idea to release all sanctions on Russia too quickly because we are already giving them quite a bit of leeway.
We want to start fresh. If there is a problem, if Russia causes a problem, then we can always reimpose sanctions. But we want to assume first that Russia will cooperate.
Japan would like to point out that we have currently invested $1.5 billion in Ukraine's economy and will continue investing depending on how this situation plays out.
Ukraine would like to generously thank all the countries helping out with financial support and support for helping rebuild our houses from this war.
We need to maintain our relations with Syria, and the only way to do that is if we actually have a government and not a bunch of rebels who don't know anything about politics.
Because if we get China and Russia, the rest of their bloc is going to fall off.
But there's no possible way to get China and Russia.
I got Japan to be a signatory of 1.0.
Yes! Put down Ukraine.
Resolution 1.0 sponsors USA, Ukraine, UK, and New Zealand.
Notes that a solution to address the actions of this group is imperative.
Understands the dire need to minimize civilian casualties.
The UN would also conduct dialogues with major social media firms to discuss the fight against terrorism online.
How will people far away from the no-fly zone where humanitarian aid would be provided, how will those people get there?
Our goal in enacting this no-fly zone is not necessarily to make the logistics the easiest, but to keep the citizens safe, which is our utmost priority.
Urges that each country contributes either monetarily or with acceptance of refugees, and this is based on economic status and takes into consideration crises and events going on inside the country.
However, China and Russia have been extremely hypocritical. They are the two main proponents of this amendment. However, they have both refused to take in refugees considering the large economy and prosperity the country is enjoying. I believe in order for them to pass this amendment, they must set an example of what they want us to do.
Russia is not necessarily thriving economically, and we cannot handle the refugees. There are not enough opportunities for them.
Three out of 5. Yeah. Now, we're going to say about half the people vote yes for Russia, so that's half there.
Sponsors split on a clause.
The percentages of people who have to both vote and agree will be negotiated later.
What makes you think that we'll agree on that later if we can't agree on it now?
We've just decided to negotiate it at a later date, perhaps with a different committee.
What do you mean by express the readiness of the United Nations to reinstate sanctions?
If the Minsk Accord is not followed by Russia or other countries, then the United Nations is ready to reinstate more sanctions.
All those in favor of Organization 1.0, please raise your flag. All those against this resolution? 1. Alright, so this working paper becomes Resolution 1.0 and it is in order. Clapping is in order, delegates. You may clap.
Great job, you guys.
We are now in voting procedure. The doors are, you can imagine them to be locked, All those in favor of the clause that says recommends that countries create programs to counteract the propaganda distributed by radical terrorist groups such as the Islamic State. All those in favor of this amendment, please raise your placards. With the vote of 7 to 1, this amendment does not pass. One calls for the UN to send out informational videos in response to online propaganda currently being created by the Islamic State. All those in favor? All those opposed?
The United States, were you opposing that?
Yeah.
Or Alright.
You're opposing?
Opposed.
You're okay. Well, unfortunately, a member has vetoed this resolution, which would have otherwise passed. So this also fails. So calls upon the UN to communicate with online platforms such as Twitter and YouTube in order to counter ISIS propaganda videos. All those in favor? All those opposed? Okay. Well, unfortunately, once again, P5 has vetoed this, so this one does not pass either. Okay, delegates, we will now see if 1.0 passes. Angola, are you voting yes, no, abstain?
No.
China?
No.
Egypt?
Yes.
France?
Yes.
With a score of 10 to 2 to 3, this resolution has failed.
What? Seriously, China?
May it now close.
All right.